Hello and welcome to sunny Cartagena. I just wanted to post this video, which is an extended version of the interview that we did last week in Gibraltar. We get comments of people saying they'd like to hear more, and no more so than last week's episode 6, where we interviewed Targ and Tereza off of Lady Golem. They're a fantastic couple, and it's one of the pleasures of cruising around the place is that you just meet such interesting people. She's an international lawyer. He's a compliance financier. I tried to pretend I knew what that meant in the interview. So for all of you that's asked to see more of the interview, here it is. We don't often moor next to something that's out trumps us in pretty much every regard for that. I mean, this boat is pretty awesome as a seagoing boat, isn't she?
That's why we fell in love with her. Yeah.
The thing that will worry me, as much as I'd like to have hydraulics for furling and for halyards and the rest of it, is that the feel that you get for that. I mean, sometimes when you're winding something in, something's wrong because something's snagged.
Yeah.
If you keep going, you're going to break something. Is that an issue?
We haven't had it so much. I mean, you notice that something's not going. I mean, you notice either from the shape of the sail or it makes a noise, and maybe that's putting a bit more force on it.
But there's no clutch type system, is there?
No.
If something's going to snag, it's going to keep going until until something breaks.
It will. I mean, the hydraulics for these are powered from a power pack, which is in the engine room. It has a little electric motor with a pump on it, which isn't really intensely powerful. So it will get these moving, but it will get strained. So I think there's a point where it would just stop going. It will make a noise.
Yeah.
It will tell you that something's up. So it doesn't have this sort of limitless power to break something. It's not going to sort of snap a rope or anything. I think it's definitely something else to learn. It's like when you go from a monohull to a catamaran, and you lose this whole sense of heel, and when you're
the sails are putting on something, how much power you're putting in. Yeah.
We got her sorted, and there's our giant Rockner.
Yes, I hadn't noticed quite how big. What did you say this one was?
55 kilo.
55 kilo. Yeah, that's a monster, isn't it? I think you'll probably be okay
holds.
with that, even in a big wind shift. I think that's going anywhere, is it?
She holds.
Teak decks, did that scare you? Did it scare you, the prospect of teak decks?
I mean, we're lucky because she's Nordia. They're really thick planks.
Yeah, you can see,
Unfortunately, one of the previous owners clearly didn't understand you shouldn't scrub teak.
No.
And so all the caulking is sitting quite proud of it, and there's some grooves. But because they're quite thick planks, we're actually, one of the jobs we're doing before the end of the year is refinishing all of the decks.
Yeah. So you've got a great cockpit here.
Yes.
Lots of space.
Hefty.
Okay, so following along the lines of the monster things on this boat, this is one of the biggest winches I've ever seen.
Lumar. She's
hydraulic as well, isn't it?
Hydraulic as well, yeah. So she'll.
The other one.
Yeah. You're going to waste away by the time you're 60.
I think I'll be fine. I think I'll be just fine.
And lots of space, isn't it? There's lots of space on deck. And something I really like as well, because we've got to sort out our dinghy situation. We've got a little Avon with a very crappy engine, and it gets us nowhere. And by the time you get somewhere remote, you need this, don't you?
So we got the Whaley, it's called. So it's the same shape as a rib, but roto molded plastic. But you've got these kind of benches inside, so your bum gets less wet.
She get up on the plane with that?
She does, the boat is amazing. She's indestructible, so I think she should last us a good few years.
Yeah.
One of the jobs we're about to have done is, obviously these davits have been built to accommodate the original tender.
Yes.
So you've got these
I can see
cups, but we're having these refashioned so that it's perfectly designed.
Solar panels on top?
So solar panels, we're going to have a big arch about 2 meters up.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
We're looking at about 1,000 watts of solar because she's an energy-hungry boat.
And you've got the battery capacity for you, haven't you?
Yes.
What on earth are you after with that?
Big fish. Or when Tereza runs amok.
And of course, your true Australian roots.
Yes. So the barrel it was recently acquired because I really like barbecuing, and I'm not
you
impressed.
Really like beer.
I married a Czech girl. I mean, I have to like beer, but this is actually to make a barbecue from. So I'm not overly impressed by the boat barbecues that exist.
No.
And so I've got a rough design for a gimbaled smoker barbecue made from a beer keg. So this is going to be cut and adapted and mounted off the side here for me to smoke and barbecue all the delicious fish I'll be catching with my giant net.
Brilliant.
I discovered sailing in my mid-20s and just completely fell in love with it. And then when I met Tereza, that was the second trip we went away together, was sailing in Greece, and it worked very well. So we realised it was a thing we'd like to do more of.
But I mean, obviously, a lot of people think that, let's get a boat and we'll go there the weekend, whatever. Different prospect to say, let's buy a boat, let's live on a boat, let's travel.
Well, I had a boat. I had a much smaller boat. I had a 27-foot Marcon Sabre in Portishead, because I was from the West Country, and I loved sailing. And actually, ever since I discovered sailing, my love had been for the voyaging aspect rather than the racing side of it, and it for a very long time been my long-term dream to go sail around the world.
But I think also we both had office jobs. So I'm a lawyer, Targ is in compliance. So we worked very long hours in the city in London. Yeah. And so you kind of go, if you're in one extreme, you kind of wish for the other extreme, right? Yeah. So the dream wasn't just to get a boat and potter around during the weekends. The dream was, we just want to leave this place and go and do something completely different. And for me, that was mostly traveling. I loved traveling. I never quite, got into sailing. So when I met Targ and he was like, well, I like to sail, I'm like, well, I'd like to travel around the world. Those two things can work very well together.
Best
so
way
it
to
was
travel.
kind of a natural merging of the two things that we really liked to do.
And was it an instant, we've got to change our life completely and do that? Did you not sort of think, well, let's sort of take some time out of work? That's what most conservative people would do. But to then say, okay, we're going to chuck it in, and we're going to go and do this.
We kind of met at a time where we were both already individually planning on doing that. So we were both ready to kind of quit. I think Targ, very similar to me, kind of realized quite early on in the careers that we had that we've kind of achieved what we wanted, and we felt that if we stayed longer, being in our, Targ was like 30 around the time, I was late 20s or mid 20s. If we stayed any longer, we'd get trapped in the race and we'd get the mortgage and we'd get everything. And so we were kind of looking to leave anyway. So it wasn't such a big leap for us.
So how will you make money?
So we've got some money saved up and in the bank. So we I mean, that's the point. We were at a stage in our lives where we realised we were very lucky to kind of have the freedom to decide what we would want to do. But knew that we wanted to do something completely different. Looked around at the other people in those kind of fields and thought that's not necessarily where we want to be when we are in 15, 20 years' time. For cruising, I think we've budgeted so that we can go sailing for about 5 years without having to stress about money, just from saving up. And then.
So we've saved up, but also we both, before we came here to Gibraltar, we were consultants, and so we can do consulting, and there's areas in the world where we can spend a bit more time. For example, once we get to Australia, because Targ is soon to have an Australian passport, we can stick around for a bit longer, and I'm a UK qualified and soon to be Gibraltar qualified lawyer, and I can probably get some work in Australia. So we can work, I think, along the way if we need to. But we've hopefully saved up enough, although we keep plowing money into this boat, where at least we have a few years where we don't have to worry about it too much.
Well, before we came to Gibraltar, we thought we were ready, and then we just our initial budget.
Everyone's done that. We bought our boat thinking, we'll spend a year doing it up, and then we'll go. We spent 3 years, pretty much, before we left. I mean, it takes a lot longer than you think.
It's three times the time and 3 times the money. We loved the BVIs. The Caribbean in general is just absolutely perfect. But I think the dream destination for the sailing is the South Pacific.
Yeah.
And that's so much of it. The Marquesas, the Tuamotus.
I mean, we have a boat that's much too big for us, for any 2 reasonable people to take on, but she will take us 2 places, and so we need to take advantage of that and not just potter about in the Med. We need to go to some very remote places where we would otherwise not be able to get to. So that's really the exciting part for us.
So take me through the choice of boat then.
There was not.
Yeah, no. There was we had a list of things that we would like in a boat, and included a number of things. We wanted a metal boat. We were quite keen on either steel or aluminium, which obviously have pros and cons with either one.
Yeah, and that's just purely safety. Was it hitting things at sea, that sort of issue?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's the robustness of it. The idea of hitting a shipping container always kind of it sort of hits in the mind, and with a solid metal boat that might give you a dent and a scratch, but and I'm sure a lot of it's actually psychological. I mean, but we were quite keen on that, and I'm quite a fan of more classic boats, and long keel was quite high on the priority just for crossing oceans, something that's going to keep pointing in a straight line.
So she's full keel,
very good. So interestingly, she's a long fin keel, so she starts her finward, fully skegged rudder. Fully skegged rudder was another of my key things. Didn't want a spade. Again, I'm sure a lot of it's just psychological, but
no, I agree with that. This is full keel hung rudder. So I would have only ever gone for a keel hung rudder, or something on it, something pretty mounted, pretty solid. Yes.
But yeah, so we'd thought about the various factors, and what we want is a voyaging boat that's going to be comfortable. Centre cockpit was again something quite high on the list. And when Tereza came across the auction and said, "Is this a nice boat? Is this a good boat?" I said, "It's an amazing boat," because Nordia was actually my favourite yard. Like discovered, I found a Nordia Zambo Rope Van Dam in Lymington years before I met Tereza. That was the first boat I sort of really fell in love with. Like, I wanted this boat so desperately, and I tried to scrape together the money to buy it, and I couldn't afford it, which is good in retrospect, because she was actually an older, less good version of what we ended up with. We in the auction, it pointed out that it'd been seized by Border Force under the Proceeds of Crime Act, and it was a no reserve auction, but she had 26 holes under the waterline, and was in dry dock in way inland, and many other holes. So the response was, it's going to be a money pit, there's no way, but it's like half an hour drive away, we should go and look at it.
She was in Maidstone on the Hard in the auction, in the auction yard, and we were in East London at the time, so actually getting out and getting to Maidstone was quite easy out of London. And so having found her on saying no reserve auction, we're like, well, no reserve, it's just an hour away or so, let's go see her. And so we went, she was on the Hard, and we got in, and they were showing us around, and Targ's just kind of walking around eyes wide, like silent. And I hadn't seen many boats at the time, like we hadn't been looking. This was the first one we went to see. So like, Targ, is this good? Like, is this considered good? He's like, oh my God, it has everything we want. He was so excited.
And just beautiful. I mean, they were seeing the potential. I mean, unfortunately, while the police had been investigating her, they'd left her doors open. There was sort of water damage. All of the varnish. Obviously, I still need to redo lots of it. But
they did a number on her.
They did.
Sad.
But she has a full walk-in engine room, and the owner's cabin at the back has there are these windows on the stern that look out. And the second I saw them, I mean, even though it was in this grey, dismal yard in Maidstone, I was just picturing a tropical vista out the back. So it was just, we were completely in love. But then we also recognised that there was a certain amount of money that we didn't want to get in any debt. We knew how much money we had. We knew we estimated badly how much it would cost to get her back working. And so we had a bit of a hard limit of what we wanted to spend, and we knew that she could easily go for 3 or 4 times that if it was someone who, had a similar taste in boats and the means to repair her.
Auctions are hilarious. They're a whole alternate universe.
Well, you said you didn't win the auction, so how did that work?
Well, it was also very funny because earlier in the day, I am a scientifically minded person, but it was just frivolously went onto this website, Magic 8 Ball website, where you can type in a question. I said, will we win the auction? I said, my sources say no. I said, will we get the boat? Yes. Cut to later, and we're lot 70 something. Okay, yes.
Yeah, this sounds a bit freaky the way you tell it.
Let me tell the story. So it was an auction where it wasn't just boats, so it was just seized things from proceeds of crime auction. And we had to sit through all of the, you know, BMWs and fancy cars and Rolexes and everything. And it's you can get pretty good deals. And clearly people go and buy and then resell, and that's how they make their living. But the auction was in Ireland, and we didn't fly to Ireland, so we did it online. And it was in the evening, it was quite late. And so we came home after work, and all like through 2 weeks before the auction, you know, people knew that we were going to bid on this boat, and we just felt like it was our boat. We just completely felt it was our boat. And I can tell you later why. There were a few things like with the name, there were a few signs that we were just felt like this boat is meant to absolutely be our boat.
Yes. She wasn't the right colour at that stage.
No, she was white, but you know, you can change those things.
Let her tell the story.
I just wanted to know whether the boat matches you or you match the boat.
Oh, the boat matches me. I came first. And so we came home and we sat on the sofa, and we actually filmed it, so it's quite fun to watch back, with some whiskey, and we drank quite a bit of whiskey by the time that she came on. Thankfully, she was the first of the boats. And we had a limit that we said we're not going to go over. And we thought we had her at about 10 grand below our limit. And then someone came in, and then we ended up going about 10 or so grand above our limit. Very bad.
We had the whole
bidding.
going, almost had the hammer go down, and then we got outbid.
Yeah, so then it went like 20 above our limit, and I remember just slamming down the laptop being like, no, we can't, because, you know, we just want to bid. We're like, no, we're done. Yeah. And it was September, and it was actually a really nice day, and we were living in this house in East London with a garden, and we poured ourselves more whiskey and went out into the garden and spent 45 minutes just discussing how it's actually good that we didn't get her. She's too big, it would be too much money.
It wasn't meant to be.
We would be paying so much in every marina that we went, because, you know, she's so long.
So through the tears.
Exactly. I don't know. And at the end of the 45 minutes, we were like, feeling pretty good, you know, the whiskey did its job, and we had reasoned with ourselves and each other. And then we get back in the house and my phone rings, and it's the auction yard, and I thought they were returning our deposit, because in the auction you need to pay a deposit, and if you don't bid on something they keep the deposit. So it's to make sure they don't just have people looking, right? Everyone's an active participant. So I thought they were just going to return my deposit. And the lady said, so the two people who got this boat that you bid on above you can't pay the 10% deposit because they didn't read the terms and conditions. She's like, if you
immediate payment of 10%.
Like, if you can pay it now, you can have her for your last
bid.
For our last bid. Yeah. And so, having just spent these 45 minutes talking ourselves out of this boat,
hang on, you're already 10 grand over there.
We 15 over.
We are 15. We're 15 over.
That was okay.
And so suddenly we're like, well, now we don't know. So I'm like, well, can I just have 5 minutes? Because she's there on the phone. She's like, okay, but you know, I'm going to call you back in 5 minutes, and you need to tell me. So then I call my mom, because obviously if you don't know what to do, you call your mom. I call my mom. I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to do. And she goes, wait a minute. So an hour ago, you were willing to have her for X, and now it's like 15 grand more, which, you know, in the scheme of things, how much we paid for her wasn't a huge amount of money, and now you don't want her? Like, what is happening? Why are you being stupid? I'm like, oh, okay. So you're right, Mom.
Very straightforward check mother.
Exactly. She knew exactly what to say, and so that's how we got her. We were able to pay the deposit, and she was ours.
But our first challenge was actually moving it, because it was inland and huge, so she's more than a lane wide. So we had to. It took us 2 months to figure out how to actually get her
from the auction yard to a marina. So sailing her was not even a thought in our mind at the time. We had all these other logistical issues to think of.
I mean, the mast was down. We didn't know if the rigging was complete. We had all the standing rigging completely replaced, but the authorities, when they took the mast down, instead of opening the access panel and disconnecting things like the hoses, they just slashed through the hydraulics, through all the electrics. So had to rewire the whole of the mast. And spot repair everything on it. We basically rewired the boat at this point, haven't we? Almost entirely.
I was going to ask what other work you've done. I mean,
instruments. we've just done recent big job was the fridges. We spent 18 months with no refrigeration, which was quite a thing.
Yeah, we've been living on her for 18 months.
Yeah.
And we actually did, when we moved on to her in December in the UK, and we had no running water, no heating. We had electricity, so we could have little electric heaters, and no fridges. And that's how we spent the first winter on her in Gillingham. And it was one of those, it was that really bad, not the winter wasn't that bad, but then afterwards it was with the March huge snow that was in the, so we would literally, I couldn't open the door in the morning because the snow would be, in the cockpit.
Because you're right on the Medway, it's all of the wind's coming straight across the channel.
It was a pretty intense situation that we had. So yeah, sailing was not even number 20 on our list.
Looking forward to that being the challenge that we had to deal with.
And then coming down here, so I was going to say, which route did you take to come down here?
So we had so with our whole re-rigging aspect, there were a couple of kinks, should we say, with the job that was done. One of the biggest issues was that the forestay for the Genera, because we got these hydraulic furling units, it's rod rigging in those, and it had been made 55 centimetres too short, which was then put together with rigging links, which we then needed to take the boat to the riggers in Portsmouth to have them rehead it and put an extension on. So we had various stops on the way, so we came down through the channel, stopped at friends, we stopped in the Solent at the Isle of Wight, and then went into Portsmouth. Had issues with the other hydraulic system, and had a motor rewound. And then
I think it's worth saying at this point that actually the trip down here was only the second time we'd ever taken the boat out of Gillingham Marina. Yeah. So we did a first trial, which was literally a 45-minute go out into the Medway, just so we could put a sail up, take it down, and go back in. Yeah. And then the second time we took her out, it was en route to Gibraltar.
1,600 mile shakedown.
Yeah. And so...
So did you do the bay in one hit?
Yeah.
You went across?
We went out as far as we could because we just didn't want... We'd been off this job, and so I'd been working remotely for them, and so said I was going to try and sail down in 2 weeks. Took a lot longer in the end, but so it was all about speed.
We had a lot of issues en route. Going through the Bay of Biscay, we had to stop using our engine because we had our grease pump. The grease is our stern gland, right? We just went haywire and just kept greasing, so we weren't quite sure what was happening, so we didn't want to use it, we didn't want to use the engine, and we had no wind, so we ended up just bobbing about for a few days.
When did you get in then? Where did you get in?
Well, when we actually, before we got into the Bay of Biscay, as we were coming out of the channel around Ushant into the top of the Bay of Biscay, I was just as a much stronger than was forecast, but a force 9 gale was coming in, so with 8-metre waves picking us up, and we were barreling into it. It was very, very intense for a while, so we had to take shelter in Brest, but again, it was the first time we'd taken it out.
We lost our ensign. Our steel ensign rod got snapped off in the waves. So it was intense.
We stopped in Brest.
Did you have help for this voyage, or just the pair of you?
So we had my father, who hadn't sailed before.
He was useless, so he was in the bunk.
He was very sick. He didn't get seasick at all on the way down through the channel, but then the gale was a bit much, and so we had to have him wrapped up in the bunk. And then we had Wendy, who is a force of nature.
Wendy.
She was amazing.
So we found Wendy on a crewing site.
Oh, really? Okay.
She was 70 years old. She is now, probably 71, 72. She runs a holiday home in Cornwall. She's a farmer's daughter. Tiny thing, super fit, experienced sailor. Herself had a small boat, 20-something foot. But yeah, she was fantastic. She stayed up all night during the storm, just at the helm.
She's crewed on like ocean races in the Southern Ocean and stuff.
Yeah,
she's hardcore.
No, she was
But coming into port, amazing. So like you said, 70-year-old lady, she's jumping off, grabbing the lines, giving something to the dock. She was very
amazing.
Good. Yeah.
So it was very eventful getting to Gibraltar. Yeah. But as expected, it was basically a shakedown cruise on a boat that was 30 years old. Yeah. And you never know what's okay and what isn't okay until you start sailing.
So you got to Gibraltar. How's your time been here?
It's been really good. I mean, it was quite obviously it's quite a long journey, and you're one of those the iconic Rock of Gibraltar coming down. We were looking forward to seeing it, and it was pea soup fog. So
we saw nothing when we came in.
We
super foggy.
On the way down, we stopped at Gibraltar, which is just
Lovely.
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And then we were like, okay, got to go to the real world, and we had these mad little lightning squalls coming across the Gulf of Cadiz, and you couldn't really go around them. You just had to hope for the best. So it was just very bizarre, little tiny pockets of lightning storm. And then as we came in, we timed it very well. There's a really good little book that we were lent on the because it's both current and tide with the bay. So we timed it really well, which means it just really slingshots you through. Like we were motoring because there was just no wind at the time, but we had to take it down to barely anything. It was still like 6.5 knots overland.
And she's not a fast boat. No, we're heavy.
Yeah, I mean, we were getting up to 10 knots under sail, which is pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's very good. But this is great. We flew in as well. So we
had a scrap ahead sail, and we came in at 8 knots with a scrap ahead sail.
Nice. But pea soup fog, we have the radar and AIS on, and you have these huge tankers at 20 knots. And we've got 2 boat lengths of visibility.
So we just hear them in the fog, and
and so we couldn't actually see the rock until we were right alongside it. But we've loved the climate. It's we've made some really good friends here. It's very unique place, Gibraltar. Kind of English, kind of Spanish, just has its own.
But we've been working again in an office environment, and just working really long hours. So we've neglected the boat for a year. We haven't really done any of the repair jobs that we wanted to do, and also just didn't do any of the upkeep jobs, and kind of just lived on her and treated her more as a flat rather than a boat. And now we're paying for that. Now that we're not working anymore, we have a lot.
So what's your plan? When do you think you'll be out?
Well, we've got the marina berth. We paid for the year, so we've got her up until the end of December. And obviously when you leave a annual berth early, they consider it the monthly fee and only refund the difference. And we're past the point of actually getting anything back now. So we're staying here, and Gibraltar's good because there's no tax on things that are getting imported for boats, and there's no VAT here, and we've got to buy a lot more stuff. So we've just planned out we're putting a solar arch above the davits. We are fitting the water maker. We are doing a whole bunch of work internally. So we're going to get all of that done. We're going to take her across to Spain and have her hauled out, and then we may leave in January to somewhere else in the Med, but really the first 3 months of the year are a bit crazy in the Med.
It can be,
So we're looking
just pausing on that then, because there's a lot of people that on our channel sort of talk about the difference between your average weekend sailing boat, production sailing boat, and a boat like this, which of course is fantastically well spec'd, but not particularly made for living on and cruising on full time. No boat really is built that way, is it? So what are the things that you found that you think you're going to need for your trip, for your full-time living voyaging trip on this boat? You got the water maker, you got your
I actually think, having been on other people's boats and on the boats that we've chartered, I think in terms of the interior, this boat is most like an apartment. It's very bright and spacious, got 2 bathrooms. Like it's I don't feel it's actually bigger than some of the apartments I've lived in London. So in terms of the space, I am not really finding that it's that I would be in any way compromising to the way I was living before necessarily. But we're not at the moment in a state where we could not be in a marina. So in terms of the solar, we need to be able to make our own power.
Have you got an onboard Jenny?
We've got we do have a generator. We've got so we replaced all of the batteries. We've got a very big domestic battery bank, and we've got an 8 kVA generator.
Lead acid one or?
So we they're in the salon, so we had to go with AGM.
Yeah.
We looked at lithium, but we've got 6 260 amp hour batteries, and lithium would be, each battery would cost what it costs for all of the AGMs. And actually, at the moment, I'm sure it's going to change, but actually I realised there's a ballast issue, because oddly, our galley has solid marble countertops, and which is a bit weird on a boat, but
as well.
But then the batteries start from the companionway and go to the port side, and so I realised actually if we drop down to the weight of lithium, I'd need to put something really heavy on the port side to balance it out. But yeah, so we went for AGM, but then we got 2 other battery banks in the engine room, one for the engine and one for the generator. So yeah, we've got she's a designed to go anywhere boat. So there's a 2,500 litre diesel tank. It did have 2,500 litres of water, but that was in 2 tanks. And the smugglers that had her before she was seized cut out the baffle of the forward tank, which was the smaller one. So we've only got 1,500 litres of water, but that's still good for 2 people.
That's fine. That's fine. But it sounds, the way you described it, come and ask Barbara. Come and have a drink on ours,